The signal came through at 3 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Kate Morgan was drinking her 4th cup of coffee when her console started screaming. She spilled the hot liquid across her desk as she rushed to check the incoming transmission. The signal was weak. It was broken, but it was clearly a distress call. Kate worked fast. Her fingers moved across the controls as she tried to clean up the audio and video. What she saw made her stomach turn cold. Fire, smoke, buildings falling. And in the middle of all that chaos, she saw the Villani. The Villani were small creatures. They had soft blue skin and large eyes that always looked kind. They were not warriors. They were teachers, and healers, and artists. 50 years ago, when humanity first reached the stars, the Villani were the only species that helped them. Every other alien race saw humans as dangerous animals from a death world. The Villani saw them as friends. Now those friends were dying. Kate enhanced the audio. A voice came through, high and frightened. It was a child. A Villani child. Please help us. Please. They are taking everyone. They are taking my mother. Please, someone help. The signal died. Kate sat frozen for 3 seconds. Then she hit the emergency alert button. Within the hour, Earth Command Headquarters was full of officers. Admiral Frank Lawson stood at the center of the war room. He was an old man, with gray hair and hard eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and he had never lost one. "Show me everything," he said. The screens lit up with data. The attack had come fast. The Krath Dominion had sent 200 warships to Villar Prime. The Villani had no military. They had no weapons. They had nothing but a small planetary shield that the Krath broke through in minutes. "The Krath," said a young officer. "They are slavers. They target species they consider weak. They take prisoners and sell them across the galaxy." "I know who the Krath are," said Admiral Lawson. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard the anger in it. "I also know they have avoided human space for 50 years. Why attack our allies now?" 8. "Our intelligence suggests they believed no one would respond," the officer said. "The Villani have no military power. No economic importance. The Krath calculated that no species would go to war for them." Admiral Lawson was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy sound. "They calculated wrong." The doors opened, and Captain Jack Harris walked in. He was tall and broad, and he moved like a man who had seen too much but kept going anyway. The colony wars had given him scars on his face and in his soul. His ship, the Ironclad, was the most decorated warship in the fleet. "Admiral," said Harris, "I heard about the Villani. I am volunteering my ship and crew." "I expected you would," said Lawson. "Do you understand what I am asking you to do, Jack? This is not a rescue mission. The Krath have taken millions of Villani already. They are loading them onto slave ships right now. By the time you arrive, most of them will be scattered across Krath territory. Then we scatter ourselves across Krath territory to find them," said Harris. "Sir, the Villani helped us. When we were new to the galaxy and everyone treated us like monsters, the Villani gave us medicine. They gave us respect. My grandmother would be dead without Villani doctors. I owe them. We all owe them." Admiral Lawson nodded slowly. "I am giving you full authority, Captain. Take whatever ships you need. Use whatever methods you require. There will be no rules of engagement. No restrictions." The officers in the room went quiet. They understood what that meant. "And the Krath prisoners?" asked Harris. "If any surrender?" Lawson's eyes were cold. "The Krath do not take prisoners, Captain. They take slaves. They have shown us what they believe is acceptable. I suggest we show them what we believe is acceptable in return." Harris saluted and turned to leave. "Jack," said Lawson. "One more thing. The Galactic Council will condemn this. They will call us savages. They will say we proved that humans are exactly what everyone always feared. Are you prepared for that?" Harris stopped at the door. He did not turn around. "The Villani child in that transmission asked for help," he said. "She asked someone to save her mother. I do not care what the Council thinks. I care about answering her." He walked out. 3 hours later, the ironclad launched with a fleet of 40 warships behind it. They moved fast. They moved quiet. And they moved with a purpose that the galaxy had never seen from humanity before. In the crew quarters of the ironclad, Harris gathered his senior officers. Kate Morgan was there too. She had requested transfer to the ironclad, and Harris had approved it immediately. She needed to see this through. "Listen carefully," said Harris. "We are not going to Valar Prime to negotiate. We are not going there to show the flag or make political statements. We are going there because our friends are in trouble, and we are going to help them." He paused and looked at each face in the room. "But I will not lie to you. When we see what the Krath have done, you will want to do more than help. You will want revenge. I know this because I already want it. And I am telling you now. I will not stop you. I will not ask you to show mercy to those who showed none." The Krath made a choice when they attacked the Vellani. They chose to learn what happens when you hurt something that humans love. The officers were silent. Their faces were hard. "We are Deathworlders," said Harris. "The galaxy has always feared us. They always said we were too violent, too dangerous, too savage. Well, the Krath are about to learn that everything the galaxy feared about us is true. We are exactly what they always said we were, and we are coming for them." Kate Morgan felt something change in the room. The fear was gone. The doubt was gone. What remained was something older and darker. It was the same feeling that human ancestors knew when something threatened their tribe. It was the feeling of predators preparing to hunt. The ironclad jumped to faster than light speed. Behind it, 40 warships followed. They carried no diplomats. They carried no negotiators. They carried only soldiers and weapons, and a simple message for the Krath Dominion: "You should not have touched our friends." The human fleet dropped out of faster than light speed above Valar Prime. What they saw made them go silent. The planet below was burning. Great clouds of black smoke covered entire continents. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now ruins. And in orbit, the Krath blockade was already pulling back. Their massive transport ships were full of stolen lives, and they were leaving. Captain Jack Harris stood on the bridge of the ironclad and watched the enemy retreat. His hands gripped the railing so hard that his knuckles went white. "They are running," said Kate Morgan. Her voice was thick with anger. "They got what they came for. And now, they are running." "Track every ship," said Harris. "Every single one. Mark their heading and calculate their destinations. We will deal with them soon." He turned to his tactical officer. "Send the ground teams down. I want a full assessment of what happened here." The dropships launched within minutes. Sergeant Ben Carter led the first team into the capital city of Valar. He had seen war before. He had seen death and destruction on human colonies during the worst fights of his career. Nothing prepared him for this. The streets were empty. The buildings were burned. And everywhere, there was evidence of what the Krath had done. They found the first mass grave near the city center. The Krath had not bothered to hide it. They had simply dug a hole and thrown bodies into it. Old Vellani, sick Vellani, anyone they considered too weak or damaged to sell. Ben Carter stood at the edge of the grave and looked down at the bodies. Some of them were still holding hands. "Sergeant," said one of his soldiers, "we found survivors." They followed the signal to an underground shelter. Inside, they found Elder Tovin and 43 Vellani, who had managed to hide when the Krath came. Tovin was old, even by Vellani standards. His blue skin had faded to gray and his eyes were tired, but he was alive. "You came," said Tovin. His voice was barely a whisper. "We sent the signal, but we did not believe anyone would come. Not for us." "The humans always come for their friends," said Ben Carter. "Tell me what happened." Tovin closed his eyes. The memories were painful. "They arrived 6 days ago, 200 ships. They broke through our shield like it was nothing. Then they landed soldiers. Thousands of soldiers. They did not kill everyone. They sorted us." "Sorted you?" "Yes. The young and healthy were taken to transport ships. They will be sold as workers or servants. The children were separated from their parents. The Krath have buyers who prefer young slaves. They can be trained to forget their families. Ben Carter felt his jaw tighten. And the others? The old, the sick, the disabled. We were deemed worthless. Tovin opened his eyes. They were wet with tears. They killed them in front of us. To save resources. They said there was no profit in keeping us alive. On the other side of the city, medic Amy Torres was searching a building that had once been a school. Her scanner showed life signs in the basement. She went down carefully, not knowing what she would find. The basement had been turned into a nursery. Rows of small beds filled the space. Most of them were empty. The Villani children who slept there had been taken, but in the corner, Amy found one bed that was not empty. A tiny Villani child was hiding under a blanket. She was shaking with fear. When she saw Amy, she started to cry. "Hey, hey," said Amy softly. She knelt down and made herself small. "It is okay. I am not going to hurt you. I am human. I am here to help." The child did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. Slowly, she crawled out from under the blanket. Amy picked her up gently and held her close. The child weighed almost nothing. "What is your name?" Amy asked, knowing the child could not answer. A voice came from behind her. It was Elder Tovin, who had followed the soldiers. "Her name is Sela," said Tovin. "She is 3 years old. Her mother was taken on the second day. Her father tried to stop them and was killed. She has been hiding here alone ever since." Amy looked down at the tiny creature in her arms. Sela had stopped crying. She was looking at Amy with those large Villani eyes, searching for something. Safety. Protection. Hope. "I have you," Amy whispered. "No one is going to take you. I promise." Captain Harris arrived on the surface an hour later. He walked through the ruined streets with Ben Carter beside him. Neither man spoke. There was nothing to say. The evidence was everywhere. They passed the processing facility where the Krath had sorted their victims. They passed the transport platform where families had been torn apart. They passed walls covered with desperate messages from Villani trying to find their loved ones. Harris stopped when he saw something on the ground. It was a toy, a small stuffed animal that a Villani child might carry. It was dirty and torn and lying in the ashes. He picked it up and looked at it for a long moment. "Sir," said Ben Carter, "are you okay?" Harris did not answer right away. When he spoke, his voice was different. The professional calm was gone. What remained was something raw. "Her name was Tila," said Tovin, who had joined them. "She was 4 years old. She loved that toy. She carried it everywhere. When the Krath took her mother, she dropped it. I watched her reach for it as they dragged her away. Where is she now?" "Dead. She died in a transport ship." The Krath did not feed the children properly. Many did not survive the journey. Harris put the toy in his pocket. His face had changed. The anger that had been building since Earth was no longer hidden. It was out in the open now. It was clear and cold and terrible. He activated his communicator. "Admiral Lawson, I am here, Captain. What is the situation?" "The situation is clear, sir. The Krath took over 3 million Villani. They killed thousands more. They sorted living beings like products and sold children away from their parents. I am standing in the middle of the evidence right now. What do you need?" "Release the fleet protocols. All of them. Every ship we have. Every weapon we carry. I want the Krath to understand what they have started." There was a pause. Then Admiral Lawson's voice came back, hard as iron. "Already done, Captain. The full fleet is mobilizing. 120 warships are on their way to join you. Show them what Earth breeds." Harris looked at the burned city around him. He thought about the child named Tila, who would never play with her toy again. He thought about the mother named Sila, who was waiting somewhere in Krath space, not knowing her daughter was alone and afraid. "We are going to find them all," he said. "Every Villani they took. Every child they stole. Every family they broke. And we are going to make the Krath pay for each one." He turned and walked back toward his ship. The hunt was about to begin. The Krath Dominion had ruled their sector of space for 2,000 years. They were slavers and conquerors. They took what they wanted and crushed anyone who resisted. In all that time, no species had ever made them afraid. That changed in 1 week. Commander Lisa Cole led the stealth strike group. Her ships were small and fast and nearly invisible to sensors. They slipped into Krath territory like ghosts and began their work. The first target was a supply convoy. 6 Krath cargo ships carrying food and fuel to the main fleet. Lisa's ships appeared from nowhere. They fired without warning. They destroyed every ship in under 3 minutes. There were no survivors. There were no distress calls. The convoy simply vanished. 3 days later, another convoy disappeared. Then another. Then a military outpost went silent. The Krath sent ships to investigate. Those ships never returned. Overlord Vex-Nar sat in his command chamber on the great warship Dominance. He was large even for a Krath, with thick gray skin and 4 arms that he used to gesture when he was angry. Right now, he was very angry. "What do you mean they disappeared?" he growled at his communications officer. "The convoys are gone, Overlord. No wreckage, no signals." Ships do not simply disappear. Find them, but they could not find them, because there was nothing left to find. Across Krath space, the human fleet spread out like a net. Captain Harris coordinated the attacks from the ironclad. Intelligence officer Nick Reeves tracked every slave transport, marking their routes and destinations. Pilot Ryan Grant led fighter squadrons that hit enemy ships with surgical precision. The strategy was simple. The Krath had taken millions of Vellani and scattered them across their territory. The humans would cut off every escape route, destroy every support system, and close the trap around the slavers. "We have located the main slave convoy," said Nick Reeves. 20 transport ships carrying approximately 200,000 Vellani. They are heading for the processing station in the Domar system. "How many escort ships?" asked Harris. 40 warships, heavy armor. "They expect someone to try a rescue." Harris smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "They expect a rescue. They do not expect what we are going to do." The attack on the convoy came at midnight, ship time. Ryan Grant led 50 fighters in the first wave. They targeted the escort ship's engines, crippling them but not destroying them. The Krath could not run. They could not call for help. All they could do was watch as the human warships surrounded them. Captain Harris opened a communication channel to the Krath commander. "This is Captain Jack Harris of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are carrying stolen people. You will release them now." The Krath commander laughed. "You are 1 ship against 40. You cannot defeat us." "Look at your sensors," said Harris calmly. The Krath commander looked. His laughter died. 40 human warships had appeared behind him. He was surrounded. "Release the prisoners," said Harris again. "This is your only warning. They are not prisoners. They are property. Livestock." "You would go to war over livestock?" Harris cut the channel. He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their bridge." "Sir, the Vellani on the transport ships are not on the escort ships. Fire." The ironclad's main cannon tore through the Krath flagship. The other human ships opened fire at the same moment. The battle lasted 6 minutes. Every Krath escort ship was destroyed. The transport ships surrendered immediately. They had no weapons and no way to escape. Human boarding teams moved in and began freeing the Vellani prisoners. 200,000 people who had been taken from their homes were going back. But this was only the beginning. In his command chamber, Overlord Vex-Nar received the report of the convoy's destruction. His 4 hands curled into fists. "How many ships did we lose?" 40 warships, Overlord. All destroyed. "And the humans?" "No losses reported." Vex-Nar stood and walked to the window of his ship. Outside, the stars looked peaceful. They did not show the death that was spreading through his territory. "Who are these humans?" he asked quietly. His second-in-command, Commander Siltek, stepped forward. "They are from a planet called Earth. A death world, high gravity, extreme temperatures, dangerous animals. The humans evolved there and became apex predators. I know what Deathworlders are. Why are they attacking us? The Volani, Overlord. The humans have an alliance with them. We did not know how serious this alliance was. The Volani are nothing. They have no power, no wealth, no military value. Why would Deathworlders care about them? Siltek did not have an answer. The Krath did not understand the concept of protecting those weaker than themselves. In their culture, the strong took from the weak. That was the natural order. The idea that someone would fight and die for a species that offered nothing in return was alien to them. It was a mistake that would cost them everything. Over the next week, the human attacks intensified. Lisa Cole's stealth ships continued to destroy supply lines. Ryan Grant's fighters intercepted slave transports across the sector, and Captain Harris pushed deeper into Krath territory, getting closer to the heart of their empire. The Krath tried to fight back. They sent battle groups to intercept the humans. But the humans did not fight like other species. They did not form defensive lines. They did not negotiate. They attacked without warning and showed no mercy. When Krath ships surrendered, the humans boarded them, freed any Volani prisoners, and then destroyed the ships anyway. A Krath captain sent a desperate message to Vexnar. They will not accept surrender. They keep coming. Nothing stops them. The message cut off mid-transmission. Another ship lost. Another crew dead. Vexnar finally understood what was happening. The humans were not trying to win a war. They were conducting a hunt. They were tracking down every Krath who had participated in the Volani raid and killing them, not capturing them, not negotiating with them, killing them. We need to contact them, said Siltek. No, said Vexnar. If we show weakness, they will destroy us completely. We must strike back. We must show them that the Krath are not prey. He began planning a counterattack. He gathered his remaining ships. He prepared his best warriors. He believed that if he hit the humans hard enough, they would retreat. He was wrong. On the bridge of the Ironclad, Captain Harris received a report from Nick Reeves. We found him, sir. Overlord Vexnar. He is gathering his fleet at the Domar processing station. He thinks he can make a stand there. Harris nodded slowly. How many Volani are still at that station? Our estimates say 300,000. It is their main processing center. The largest concentration of prisoners we have found. End quote. Then that is where we end this. Harris turned to his crew. Send word to all ships. We move on Domar in 12 hours. This is where we finish what the Krath started. The crew responded with silent determination. They had seen what the Krath had done. They had freed thousands of broken, frightened Volani. They had heard the stories of families torn apart and children sold. Now they were going to finish it. The fleet began to move. 120 warships headed for Domar. Behind them, they left a trail of destroyed Krath vessels and freed prisoners. Ahead of them, Overlord Vexnar waited with his army. The final battle was coming. The Domar processing station hung in space like a metal spider. It was massive. Thousands of rooms and corridors filled with cages and cells where living beings were sorted and sold. 300,000 Volani were trapped inside, waiting for buyers who would take them to lives of slavery. Overlord Vexnar had gathered 60 warships around the station. It was the largest force the Krath had left. He stood on the bridge of the Dominance and watched his sensors. They are coming, said Commander Siltek. The human fleet will arrive within the hour. Let them come, said Vexnar. We have prepared defenses, we have planned traps, and we have something they value. He pointed at the station. 300,000 Volani. The humans came for their precious allies. If they attack us, they risk killing the very people they want to save. Siltek nodded, but there was doubt in his eyes. Overlord, we have lost 60% of our fleet in 2 weeks. The humans do not fight like any enemy we have faced before. Perhaps we should consider what? Surrender? Vexnar turned on his second-in-command with fury. The Krath do not surrender. We are conquerors. We are the masters of weaker species. I will not bow to these death world animals. They are animals who have destroyed more of our ships than any war in our history. Vexnar grabbed Siltek with two of his forearms and lifted him off the floor. Say that again. Tell me again that we should fear these humans. Siltek struggled but could not break free. I am only advising caution, Overlord. The humans are not motivated by profit or territory. They are motivated by something else. Something we do not understand. Then explain it to me. They love the Villani. They actually love them. As friends. As family. We took their family. And they are willing to die to get them back. Vexnar dropped Siltek to the floor. The concept was strange to him. The Krath did not have friends or family in the way other species understood. They had allies of convenience and subordinates to command. The idea of risking everything for creatures who offered nothing in return was madness. It does not matter why they fight, said Vexnar finally. All that matters is that we beat them, prepare the defenses. When the humans arrive, we will show them that the Krath are not helpless victims. The human fleet dropped out of faster than light speed at exactly the predicted time. 120 warships appeared in perfect formation. At the center was the Ironclad, with Captain Jack Harris standing on the bridge. All ships, this is Harris. You know why we are here. You know what is inside that station. Our mission is simple. We rescue the Villani. We destroy the Krath. We go home. He paused and looked at the enemy formation. The Krath think they can use our friends as shields. They think we will hesitate to attack because of the prisoners. They are wrong. We have planned for this. We have trained for this. And we are going to take back every single person they stole. Sergeant Megan Price was in the lead assault shuttle. She led the rescue operations team, 20 soldiers trained specifically for prisoner extraction. Beside her sat Private Danny Walsh, a young man on his first real mission. Nervous? Asked Megan. Danny nodded. A little. I have never done anything like this before. Nobody has. This is the biggest rescue operation in human history, but we have trained for it. We know the layout of the station. We know where the prisoners are held. We go in, we get them out, we protect them with our lives. What about the Krath guards? Megan's expression hardened. We kill them. Every single one. No hesitation. No mercy. These are the people who stole children from their mothers. They do not deserve anything from us. The battle began with Ryan Grant's fighters. They swept in fast and hard, targeting the Krath defensive platforms around the station. The platforms exploded one after another, opening gaps in the enemy defenses. The Krath warships moved to intercept, but the human fleet was ready. Captain Harris had split his force into 3 groups. The first group engaged the Krath ships directly. The second group provided cover fire for the assault shuttles. The third group circled around to block any escape routes. All shuttles, you are clear to launch, said Harris. Good luck. Megan Price felt her shuttle shake as it accelerated toward the station. Outside, she could see explosions and laser fire as the space battle raged around them. A Krath fighter crossed their path and was immediately destroyed by an escort ship. 30 seconds to docking, called the pilot. Everyone ready, said Megan. We breach the hull and move fast. Primary target is the main holding area on level 7. That is where the largest concentration of prisoners is located. Secondary teams will clear levels 5 and 6. The shuttle hit the station's hull with a hard impact. The breach charges blew a hole through the metal. Megan was first through, her weapon up and ready. The corridor was full of Krath guards. They had been waiting. Contact, shouted Megan, and opened fire. The fight was brutal and fast. Human soldiers poured through the breach, overwhelming the Krath defenders with speed and aggression. Danny Walsh stayed close to Megan, firing at any enemy that appeared. His hands were shaking, but he did not stop. They pushed through corridor after corridor, clearing rooms and neutralizing guards. The Krath fought hard, but they were not prepared for the fury of the human assault. These were not soldiers fighting for territory or profit. These were people fighting to save innocents. Megan reached level 7 first. She blew the door to the main holding area and stopped. The room was huge. Rows of cages stretched as far as she could see. And in every cage, There were Villani. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They looked at the humans with wide, terrified eyes. "It is okay," said Megan, lowering her weapon. "We are human. We are here to take you home." The Villani did not move at first. They had been captured by aliens. They had been sorted and caged by aliens. Why should these new aliens be any different? Then one small voice spoke up. "Humans? Real humans?" It was a child, a little Villani boy who pushed his way to the front of his cage. "Yes," said Megan. "Real humans. Friends of the Villani. We came to rescue you." "My mother said humans would come," said the boy. "She said they were our friends. She said they would not forget us." Megan felt tears in her eyes. She was right. We never forgot. And we are going to get you all out of here. Danny Walsh was working on opening the cages. His hands had stopped shaking. He broke lock after lock, freeing Villani, who stumbled out in confusion and relief. One female Villani grabbed his arm. "My daughter," she said. "My daughter was taken to another level. Please. Please help me find her." "We are clearing the whole station," said Danny. "If she is here, we will find her. I promise." On the bridge of the Dominance, Overlord Vexnar watched the battle turning against him. His ships were being destroyed. His station was being invaded. His prisoners were being freed. "Order all ships to retreat," said a tactical officer. "We cannot win this fight." "No," said Vexnar. "If we cannot win, then neither will they. Order the station guards to move the Villani to the central chamber. If the humans want them, they will have to come through us. And if they try, we will kill every prisoner before they can reach them." Siltek stepped forward. "Overlord, that is madness. If you kill the prisoners, the humans will never stop hunting us. They will never stop anyway. You said it yourself. They love the Villani. If we are going to die, we will take their precious friends with us." Siltek shook his head slowly. "No, Overlord. I will not give that order." Siltek shook. Siltek shook his head. 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 Slowly not. Siltek shook his head. Siltek shook his head. Vexnar turned, his face twisted with rage. He drew his weapon and shot Siltek through the chest. The commander fell to the floor, dead. "Does anyone else want to question my orders?" Vexnar asked quietly. No one spoke. "Good. Now do what I told you. Kill them all." Captain Harris received the report from Megan Price. The Krath were herding Villani toward a central chamber. They were planning to execute them. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Minutes. Maybe less." Harris made his decision instantly. "All assault teams, push toward the central chamber. Use any force necessary. I am coming down personally. Sir, you should stay on the ship. My friends are dying in there. I am not staying anywhere." He turned to his second in command. "You have the bridge. Do not let any Krath ships escape." Then he headed for the shuttle bay, ready to join the fight himself. Captain Jack Harris hit the station floor running. His assault rifle was in his hands, and his personal guard was right behind him. Ahead, he could hear gunfire and screaming. The Krath were making their last stand, and they intended to take as many Villani with them as possible. "Status report," he called into his communicator. Megan Price's voice came back, strained with effort. "We have reached the central chamber, sir. The Krath have barricaded themselves inside, with at least 50,000 Villani. They are threatening to kill everyone if we breach. Can we get eyes inside?" "Working on it." Harris pushed forward through the corridors. Dead Krath lay everywhere. His soldiers had been thorough. But the enemy had retreated to their final position. And they had hostages. Danny Walsh met him at an intersection. The young soldier was covered in dust and blood, but his eyes were clear. "Sir, I found an access tunnel. It leads to the maintenance level below the central chamber. If we can get a team down there, we might be able to come up behind them." Show me. They moved through the narrow tunnel. Harris and 15 of his best soldiers. The space was tight and dark, but they pushed through without hesitation. Above them, they could hear the sounds of the standoff. Krath voices shouting, Vellani crying, and then the voice of Overlord Vexnar. You have failed, humans. You came to save your precious friends, but you cannot save them all. Surrender now, or I will begin the executions. Captain Harris found a grate that looked down into the central chamber. He could see the situation clearly. Thousands of Vellani huddled together in the center of the room, surrounded by Krath guards with weapons pointed at them. Vexnar stood on a raised platform, his 4 arms spread wide in triumph. You have 30 seconds, Vexnar announced. Then I start killing. Beginning with the children. Harris looked at his soldiers. No words were needed. They knew what to do. He kicked open the grate and dropped into the chamber. His soldiers followed. They hit the floor shooting. The Krath guards were caught completely by surprise. They had been watching the main doors, expecting an assault from the front. Instead, the humans came from below and behind. The first 15 guards died before they could turn around. Harris moved through the chaos like a machine. His rifle found target after target. He did not hesitate. He did not miss. Every bullet was placed with deadly precision. These were the people who had stolen children, who had sold families, who had murdered innocents. They deserved nothing. The Vellani scattered as best they could, trying to get away from the fighting. Human soldiers formed a protective line around them, pushing back the Krath while guiding the prisoners toward the exits. Megan Price breached the main doors at the same moment. Her team flooded in, adding their firepower to the assault. The Krath were trapped between 2 forces, and they began to fall. Find Vexnar, Harris shouted. Do not let him escape. But the Overlord was already running. He had seen the battle turn, and he knew it was lost. He pushed through a side door and ran toward the docking bay where his personal shuttle waited. Ryan Grant was waiting for him. The pilot had anticipated this move. His fighter was hovering outside the docking bay, weapons trained on the only exit. When Vexnar's shuttle launched, Grant disabled its engines with 2 precise shots. The shuttle drifted helplessly in space. Inside, Vexnar screamed with rage and pounded his 4 fists against the controls. It made no difference. He was caught. Human soldiers boarded the shuttle minutes later. They found Vexnar sitting in the pilot's seat, defeated. You should have killed me, he said. It would have been mercy. Mercy, said the squad leader, is not something you are going to receive. The Vellani are waiting for you, Overlord. You are going to face their justice. They dragged him out in chains. The battle for the station ended shortly after. The last Krath guards surrendered when they saw their Overlord captured. Human soldiers moved through the facility, freeing every prisoner and providing medical care to those who needed it. Danny Walsh found the mother who had asked about her daughter. He led her through the corridors until they reached a medical bay, where rescued children were being treated. There, in the corner, sat a small Vellani girl with bandages on her arms. Tika, the mother screamed. The girl looked up. Mama? They ran to each other. The mother wrapped her daughter in her arms and held her so tight that Danny thought she might never let go. Both of them were crying. Both of them were alive. Danny Walsh stepped back and watched. This was why they had come. This was why they had fought. This moment, repeated thousands of times across the station, made everything worth it. Captain Harris brought Overlord Vexnar before the Vellani survivors. Thousands of them gathered in the main chamber, watching as the architect of their suffering was forced to his knees. Harris pulled the small toy from his pocket, the one he had found on Valar Prime. He held it up in front of Vexnar's face. Do you know who this belonged to? Vexnar glanced at it with contempt. No. Why would I track individual livestock? Her name was Tila. She was 4 years old. She loved this toy more than anything. She was holding it when your soldiers took her mother. She dropped it and reached for it as they dragged her away. She died on one of your transport ships because your people did not consider her worth feeding. Vexnar said nothing. You are going to remember her name, said Harris. You are going to remember all their names. Because the Villani are going to tell you every single day for the rest of your life. He handed Vexnar over to Elder Tovin and the Villani Council. The Overlord would face trial on Valar Prime, surrounded by the survivors of his crimes. It was not a quick death. It was something worse. It was justice. 3 weeks later, Valar Prime was beginning to heal. Human ships filled the orbit, bringing supplies and workers to help rebuild the destroyed cities. Human doctors treated the injured, human engineers repaired the infrastructure, and human soldiers stood guard, making sure no one would ever hurt the Villani again. Elder Tovin walked with Captain Harris through the streets of the capital. Crews were clearing rubble and laying foundations for new buildings. Villani who had been freed from Krath ships were reuniting with families who had stayed behind. It was slow work, but it was happening. We never expected this, said Tovin. When we sent the distress signal, we did not believe anyone would respond. The Villani are small and weak. We have no military, no economic power. We had nothing to offer in exchange for rescue. You helped us, said Harris. 50 years ago, when humanity was new to the stars, you were the only ones who treated us with kindness. You gave us medicine and maps and respect. My grandmother would have died without Villani doctors. We do not forget that. We will never forget that. But you lost soldiers, ships, resources, all for us. You are our friends. That is enough. Tovin stopped walking. He turned to face Harris, with those large, kind eyes that the Villani were known for. The galaxy will fear you after this, he said. They will see what you did to the Krath, and they will be terrified. They will say humans are exactly what they always believed. Violent. Dangerous. Savage. Harris nodded slowly. They might be right. No. Tovin shook his head. They are wrong. They will see the violence but miss the reason. You did not do this because you enjoy killing. You did this because you protect what you love. That is not savage. That is beautiful. The Galactic Council met 1 week later. They debated for hours about what the humans had done. Some called it justice. Others called it war crimes. Many were simply afraid. Then the human ambassador stood and made an announcement. Earth hereby declares that any attack on the Villani people will be considered an attack on humanity itself. The Villani are under our protection. Forever. Anyone who threatens them will face the same response that the Krath faced. The chamber went silent. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Other species, ones that had always been considered weak or unimportant, began reaching out to Earth. They asked for alliances. They asked for protection. They had seen what humans would do for their friends, and they wanted to be friends too. A diplomat from the Zeranai Collective expressed it best in a private meeting with the human ambassador. We always knew humans were dangerous, she said. Everyone knows about the death world. The high gravity. The extreme environment that made you into predators. We feared you because of that. We thought you would conquer and destroy like every other powerful species. And now we understand. The truly terrifying thing about humans is not your strength or your aggression. It is your loyalty. You will burn down empires for people you call friends. You will cross the galaxy for allies who have nothing to offer except their friendship. That is terrifying. And that is beautiful. Captain Harris retired from active duty 6 months later. He bought a small house on Valar Prime and spent his days helping with the reconstruction. Sometimes he would walk through the city and Villani children would run up to him, curious about the famous human captain who had saved their people. He always had time for them. He would tell them stories about Earth, about mountains and oceans and forests, about dogs and cats, and the strange creatures that humans had learned to live with on their dangerous homeworld. And sometimes, when it was quiet, he would take out the small toy he still carried in his pocket. He would look at it and remember a child named Tila who never got to grow up. He had not been able to save her, but he had saved thousands of others, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. And for the first time in the galaxy's history, the weak had someone to call when they needed help. The humans had shown everyone what they were willing to do. They had come when no one else would. They had fought when everyone else ran. And they had proven that the most dangerous thing in the universe was not a death world predator hunting for prey. It was a death world predator protecting its friends.